Hello, Humane Marketers. Sarah Znakrocha here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Teresa. I'm so excited for our conversation. Yay. Thanks for being here.
No, my pleasure. I'm excited too.
Wonderful. So we could have had so many topics to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we first chatted, I was like, well, you just finished one of your list building challenges. And so I was like, oh, I think that is a good one. And we actually met on what was it called exactly? Something with Authentic Marketing Summit. With Marcy. And so I was like, oh, okay, so this is the right person to talk about humane list building. And so that's what that's what I think where we can go. But as I just said offline, I think for most people, it's like, okay, that sounds like a good idea to build your email list, but where do I get started? How do I get started? Yeah. So maybe just tell us a little bit about who you are. And then, as you can tell, we have a habit here to just dive in and go into the topic.
I have no problem with that. So I am a business owner, an online business owner, a speaker, a podcaster, an author, but basically I help amazing business owners, predominantly women, not that I only work with women, but I seem to attract a lot of women who are trying to create a business and life that actually works for them and their season of life and isn't something that they've looked at, that some experts told them it's got to be this way, or you've got to earn this much, or you've got to charge this much, or you've got to earn 7 figures and you've got to do it online. It's about understanding who they are and what they want and what's important to them and their season of life, because we all have other people in our world and other things in our world, and we need to make sure that our business balance with those things so that we're creating not this monster that actually we end up going, this is not what I want to do, that we create something that we're going to love. So I do that, and I do it in a variety of ways, and those ways include more of a mindset, kind of motivational, inspirational side, but also I'm incredibly practical because of the fact of I have 18 years experience in marketing now, which is a really long time. And I have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of business owners during that time. And I know that sometimes you need the motivation and the inspiration and the mindset and the personal development. And sometimes you just need someone to give you a straight answer. So hopefully that's what I bring with both. And one of the things that I talk a lot about, and one of my key things, I guess, that I teach on is list building. And it's so important because no matter what role I've been in, and I've been in, as you can imagine, many, many, many different marketing roles, from, heading up corporate marketing for Land Rover UK to working with a teeny tiny company that has no budget and I have to do everything. So I've kind of done it all. And one thing that has never really gone away, and in fact, in my mind, is just going to strength, is email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably a few years back, when social media really kicked in, maybe, gosh, even now, well, I started my business 8 years ago, and it was probably at that point, it was really getting good for business. I think people thought, oh, well, we have all these new amazing ways, I'm going to do this, and I don't need to think about some of these old school ways. But actually, that's moved, email has moved with social media and with technology. And when you're in marketing, or well, whether you have a business or whatever it is and you're trying to market, more options are better than less, always. So it's so important to make sure that you've got that email list, or you have another way to contact them. And the other key thing is that often if you're communicating with your clients or your prospective customers through social media, you don't own that platform. That platform is not yours. You are marketing on borrowed ground. So basically you are marketing on something that doesn't belong to you. And at any point, as we well know, because Instagram changes like the wind, that they can change something and it completely affects everything. And at the moment, you know, and I'll openly talk about stuff myself, but my own Instagram is terrible at the moment. Like in terms of the engagement on the posts, it's so much worse than it used to be. So we need to make sure we have somewhere else that we can market directly to our customers. So in terms of getting started, it's a couple of things. And this is why I think so many people get put off by it, because it can feel overwhelming. But there's a few things you have to think about first. First is, how are you going to email them? And this is the bit that no one wants to think about, because this is the tech. But ultimately, you can't do this without some tech. But it's not big and massive and huge, and it's not fancy funnels and clever things. It's just a case of, you need a system that you can add email addresses to and then send an email to those people. Now, you can't do it through your normal email. So you can't do it through, if you know you're using a business address or a Gmail, or it's hosted by Gmail, or you're in Outlook, you can't send them through that. And the reason you can't do that is, one, they're not designed to do that, and two, you have to have an unsubscribe on a marketing email, and you can't have that. That isn't standard. It has to be standard. So it's much safer and much smarter to get a system. Now, the one I recommend for everyone getting started is MailerLite. Lots of people know MailChimp, and I know lots of people are on MailChimp, and they might be like, well, why wouldn't you recommend MailChimp? I describe MailChimp, not that they would thank me for it, but I describe them as like a house. So a house that was built a long time ago, and then they had an extension put on, and then they realized they needed more room, so they added a bit over here, and then they wanted something over here, and basically they've built on. So MailChimp was there for a really long time, but they've added in all that functionality after the fact, and it just doesn't quite seem to flow. It doesn't quite seem to, like, it's not very intuitive. It's not particularly easy. There's a couple of really funky, weird things that it does. So for me, someone like MailerLite, who started off basically as if they bought a piece of land and go, right, how are we going to build this? And then they built it right in the first place, because obviously they're not that old, whereas MailChimp is old. So
I think that's another fact, like, MailChimp is old, or, in terms of social media, old. And so they constantly had to adapt. And so that's why it's this house that kept on building on other things, right?
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
if you take a newer company, well, they build with the current circumstances and what we need.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And obviously there's going to come a point where, MailerLite has to tweak and change, and all the others do, and they do always constantly, but it's almost like they want to start again with MailChimp. But like I said, lots of people use them, but if you haven't chosen a system, or even if you are using MailerLite really, really is good. Very intuitive, really simple to use. But basically you need to, like I said, set that up and say, okay, now I've got somewhere where I can put emails in and I can email from. Now, whether that's you then taking an email list that you've created in Excel or something like that and literally just putting it across, or whether that's you then creating something called a lead magnet or a content upgrade, whatever you want to call it. But basically you're creating an incentive to ask them to come onto your list. Because as much as we'd like to think that people wake up one day and go, oh, I wonder if that person that I barely know or just followed on Instagram has an email list, I'd love to get on it. Like, that doesn't happen. So even though we often have get on our list on our website or something like that, I think if you honestly ask yourself how many people have opted in through that in the last month, I think most people would be like a handful of people are opting in, if that.
I'm going to pause you there, Teresa, because I want to, before we move on to the opt-in or the freebie or the lead magnet, I want to come back to the tech, because I think, like you said, so many people start with MailChimp, or the question I have, since you recommended MailerLite, is that a platform that can grow with you? You would say that, people with big businesses are still able to use?
yes and no. It's a great one to start with, and it will certainly grow with most small business owners. It
Okay.
can do an element of the automations. It has some good functionality in it, and it's good. However, when I teach my course, I talk about 3 different platforms. I talk about MailerLite if you're just getting started. If you know how to do emails and you want to start getting a bit fancy and having some cool automations, then I use ActiveCampaign, and it's very good. Again, a lot of these platforms, though, it's what you're used to. So there's ConvertKit that's very similar. There's Drip that's very similar. So there are lots of them out there, and this is half the problem.
Yeah, there's too
And
much
then
choice.
way too much choice. And then the one I recommend, if you're going all in on an online business and you're having a membership and a checkout and landing pages and all this kind of cool stuff, then from a cost point of view, something like Kajabi could be really good. So what Kajabi has that the others don't is the facility to do all of that stuff and do it really well. The problem comes, so I currently use Kajabi to host my membership. However, I'm at a point now where I have a guy who builds all my landing pages for me. So I have a tech guy who does all that, and they're built on WordPress. And also I have some cool things, like I have a quiz, and that quiz had to plug into somewhere, and Kajabi couldn't handle it. So I've now moved to ActiveCampaign. I say now, it's about a year. So I have ActiveCampaign for my emails. I have Kajabi for those other things. But when you first get started, if you're going in the online world, the emails can't do, Kajabi are great, but they can't go to the level that ActiveCampaign can do, or I wouldn't say they can. And therefore, at the beginning, you don't want to pay for 2 systems, which I didn't. I just used Kajabi, and I kind of thought, it is what it is, you know, I'll just have to go with it. And it was perfectly fine and good enough and capable for the job. But ActiveCampaign now is much cooler.
I love that you explained that, because I think, yeah, there's one thing is like, okay, I want to plan big and go big, and therefore I'm going to go for something like, you know, Kajabi, which was also my move. I went from, actually, I started out with MailChimp, then went to Aweber, then went to ActiveCampaign, and this is over years and years.
Yeah.
And then now finally to Kajabi. And just like you, there's a little tiny piece of me is like regretting the move to Kajabi.
Yeah.
Because once you're used to something like ActiveCampaign, which is built only for email,
Yes.
then Kajabi does not do the same job. Like it's just not. So yeah, all it is to explain that it obviously depends where your business is at. MailerLite seems like a good place to start. And you almost kind of maybe do have to plan that eventually, you know, there's going to be a move.
And like you said, how many have you had? How many have I had? I was MailChimp, then I was Drip, because I went and did a certification over in Minnesota. Then I did Infusionsoft. Right. So I went like,
that was
and I mean, if you want to go crazy, I mean, Infusionsoft is insane. And then I went Kajabi, and now I've added back in ActiveCampaign. But like I said, it was just for that extra bit of functionality. If you are sending emails, if you're wanting automations to go, it will do it. You can do sequences in Kajabi. So it's not that it's a terrible system, but obviously, if you just think about it, they are building a system with so many different things. So they can't put all of the focus into just the email side of it. Whereas, like I said, ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, that's all they do. Right. So therefore, they can make sure that they've created the best email side they can. But again, you know, from a money point of view, you will be absolutely fine just using Kajabi if you are doing an online business. If you're not doing an online business, and you, at the moment, if you just want to send an emails, or when someone clicks something, you can send an email for that. Or if someone opts into something, you can send an email for that. MailerLite, this is where I start getting them all mixed up, because there are so many. And obviously MailChimp and MailerLite are very similar. MailerLite is perfectly good for that. And you're right. I think there will come a point where you go, okay, now I need more. But at that point, you'll be able to afford more. Whereas the beauty of starting on something like MailerLite is the fact that it's so low cost. So even the paid version, the start of the paid version is like $10 a month. Whereas I think probably now, because of the size of my list, I probably pay $200 a month for ActiveCampaign. So it's a big, big difference. So like I said, get started in those others, and it's a pain to move. I'm not even gonna like pretend it's not. It is a pain. I mean, it's not impossible, it's not difficult really, it's just a lot of work. And of course, the more you have created, so when we went from well, when we went from Infusionsoft to Kajabi, that was a pain. And when we went from Kajabi to Active Campaign, it took us, well, we haven't even finished, but we spent a solid week working on moving everything across, and we haven't even finished. So it's not that it's impossible. It's just that it's a new system. You got to get used to it. And you have to move things across, and it will take some time. So yeah, but don't panic about that. If you're just starting and money is more of the concern, if money's not the concern, then jump straight onto Active Campaign. Great, fine, be brilliant. You won't need to use all the functionality necessary straight away, but it will be there when you're ready. But if money's a concern, MailerLite is definitely where I would start.
Awesome. I think that was a great tech focus, it's like, because sometimes you don't get this information. No. Like I say, like people just tell you, well, start a mailing list, and then they're like, well, how, which one?
Yeah. And there's so many. And I think the other thing I really want to reassure people is I am not a tech person. Like, the reason I know so much about the tech is, one, I've used a lot of it myself, but also in my course, I identified the fact that that is the one thing that people don't teach. And that's the one and main stumbling block as to why people don't finish a process. Right. So, they might, so I can obviously talk about, what a lead magnet is and how we use it and what it's good for and some of the key things you need to do in it. And I can talk about your onboarding emails. I can talk about your sequencing. We can talk about what to email them. We can talk about how to get them on that email list, which is great. And people can get all that. But then the problem is they would look at the tech, and some people are great and they're fine. But a lot of people would go, A, I don't know what platform to use. B, I don't know where the hell to start. And I don't know how to make this work. So one of the things I did in the course, and I had to teach myself it in many, many, many systems, is the process that I give them is the process that I talk them through in the course. And one of my members that came and did it, how old is she? She's probably in her early 60s, maybe. And she was like, she'd been in my membership for ages, and obviously they get support from me there, but they don't get the course. But she could have asked me any question on any coaching call, that would have been fine. But she just hadn't got around to doing it. It was like, yeah, I know what I need to do. I haven't quite sorted out the tech. And we did the course, and she was dreading the tech bit. And we get on a call, and because we do calls alongside the course, so I can answer questions, and I can literally go, give me your login, or open it on screen and let me see, and I'll point and go, click that button. But she literally came on the call and was like, I could kiss you, literally kiss you. She said, I didn't think for 1 second I could do that tech side. She goes, and I literally sat there with your screen on one screen and me on another, and the video was like, okay, so when you're here, go here and click this. She goes, and I did. And then you were like, click this and do this, which I did. She goes, and I did it, and it's done. And that's the thing, like, it's not difficult, but the process is very weird. So again, what's interesting is a lot of the feedback I get is, I would never have started where you said to start. Right. And it's because I start them at the thank you page, which seems like a really odd place to start. But the problem is, when you're setting up a landing page, it'll say, where do you want this to redirect to? And if you haven't got that set up, you can't finish your landing page. Yeah. So there's all these kind of little quirks that, like, because I know the process and because I've done the process, it's like, okay, it's not that you can't do it the other way. It just makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker. So I think, like I said, for me, I don't want people to be sat there going, yeah, it's all right for you, you're tech. I'm really not. I just had to learn it, but it means I can teach it. And it means that obviously, if I will probably talk about it in a layman's way. And I also had the opportunity to have some of these providers come in and do the training on that for me, but I didn't want them to, because I've taught you to do something very specific. I want you to show how to do that specific thing, rather than here's an overview of the system, this is how it works. So yeah, and like I said, the tech bit's so important, because that's the bit that stumbles people and stops people.
But the other thing that you just brought up is there's the tech, but then there's also the understanding the process. It's like, you have to almost like map it out, and maybe visually map it out. And so maybe you can just do that for our listeners right now. Let's start with the what most people call lead magnet. I don't like that
Yeah.
language anymore in humane marketing, because it's just
No,
like,
you're right. No, because it
the
doesn't
visual is
sound,
not nice, right?
no,
It's
there's
not
no
nice.
humane about it.
Yeah.
Because it's
So
a
just
lead
let's call
magnet.
it a freebie, or I
Yeah.
actually call it a signpost, where
Yeah.
people get to,
A hand raiser, that's another thing I call it. It's
hand
like,
raiser. I like
yeah, I
that.
love that. I'm interested in it. I want to know
Mhm.
more. They
Yeah.
raise their hand.
So let's
So-
start there, and then let's talk through the process of what
Okay.
needs to happen behind the scenes in a way.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, the first thing we talk about is the hand raiser, the freebie. And I keep it simple. So I tell them to choose something. So the first thing we have to do right at the beginning is we have to know who their customer is. And I don't just mean like, what age are they and where do they shop? I mean, like, what is the thing that they're really struggling with? Get to know them, speak to them, understand them, listen to them and what they've got to say. You're not just trying to sell to someone. And again, that is the point of the hand raiser. It's not a sales tool, which I know often can be seen as that way. And ultimately it might lead to a sale. But the idea is, you as my perfect customer, as my perfect audience member, as part of my community, you have a problem that I can solve, because this is where my zone of genius is. So I create something that addresses your problem and gives you some solutions. And you have to give them something that is good. I have downloaded that many lead magnets, I can't even tell you, because this is my passion. This is what I do. Like, I will drop into someone's funnel and go through it and look at it all. And I've downloaded stuff that is useless, absolutely useless. And it's only just I want your email address. It's not a genuine, I'm trying to help you. So that's the very first thing we talk about. We need to know exactly who your people are, what their problem is. And then you need to give me some very good advice to help me with that problem. But we always start with a PDF download, which I know sounds very unimaginative. And there's much better ways to attract your perfect audience, but they're much bigger and more complicated. So I've got a quiz. It was a very big process to do that quiz, and I had an expert help me. So even though it might be like, well, it's just a PDF, we'll make it the best PDF they've ever downloaded. But it is. So basically we find one problem and we give them 5 points and we say, this is how I can help you with my 5 points. Okay. So it's like, and one thing that actually always comes up, and this podcast could go on for hours, by the way, because I can talk about this for literally hours.
Well, they'll just have to come to your course,
Well,
this is not a sales message, but that's what it is.
But like, so one of the things we talk about is sometimes the problem that they've got. So let's say I am a coach that helps people who have got imposter syndrome. Let's say that was my business. Well, the problem is my possible customers or people I can help might not know they've got imposter syndrome. So what they do is 5 ways to help you get over imposter syndrome. Well, that's great if I know I've got it, but I don't know I've got it. So one thing, and that's often a mistake people choose. So the thing that you need to think about with the lead magnet, with your title, with your freebie and the thing you're offering them, is it needs to sing to them. They need to read that and go, that's me. Whereas if I don't know what that is, if I've never heard of the phrase imposter syndrome, but what I might know is my symptoms, or what I might know is the problems that I have. So they need to get quite granular with that. So it might be that, do you worry that you're going to get found out one day? Question mark. If I read that, and whether I knew what imposter syndrome was or not, and whether I, thought I had it or not, I would read that and go, yeah, that's me. Yeah. So, but I would only know that and know that language because I know my customer really well. So that piece is so
unfortunately
big.
That's often a problem, especially for coaches, right? Because they're so into their specialty or into their methods that unfortunately they're marketing the method.
Yes. Yeah. And they're not talking to the problem. And sometimes people are like, yeah, but I don't want to be negative. And it's like, it's not that you're being negative. It's that sometimes the only way, so if you rephrase it and said, do you fear that one day you'll be found out? I know it sounds negative, but the point is it resonates, because that's the kind of thing I might say. And what's quite nice for me, and, I've always kind of hoped and thought that this is my superpower, is I'm able to think about who their customer might be and what their customer might say. And sometimes I am a potential customer. Sometimes I'd be like, well, actually, I would never say that. This is what I would say. And it inevitably is not the same language, because like you said, when you are an expert in your world, in your field, you are going to use the right terms. You are going to think of, like you said, the solution. And the solution is, you've got imposter syndrome. I've got tools to help you with imposter syndrome. Well, I don't know I've got that. So that's the first thing. Really understanding that customer is key. Coming up with something that is genuinely going to help them, that is genuinely going to fix their problem, is the next thing. So like I said, we know downloads can be, excuse me, I'm going to cough. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I could feel it building, and I think a sneeze might be coming as well. I'm so sorry. I never do that.
Fine.
Is it gone?
All good.
I think so. Hope so. Sorry. So like I said, you want to create that lead magnet, that freebie that is really good quality. So when they get it, it actually gives them something. Don't be scared about giving away too good of stuff. You're talking basics, okay? So you're not talking like your secret sauce or your method or your whole, like, this is how to do it, start to finish. But the stuff you're telling them is really good stuff. So when we're in the process, the very first thing they do is create that thing. And we do it in, something like Canva or Adobe Express, and they get all the templates, and basically they make it look nice, and they create this PDF that they've got that they can give someone. Then what we do, and we do everything to get it ready before we go into tech, because that's the other thing. Like I said, once you get into tech, you don't want to then go, you're halfway through a process, you have to go and write some stuff, and by the time you come back, you're like, I can't remember where I was or what I was doing. So then what you're going to do from that point is you're going to think about the words that you want to be on your sign up page. So the page that is the landing page where someone goes and goes, yes, I would like that. So based on what you've written, you write some words on that, and there's a format to it, and there's a way you can do it. But basically you're saying to them, if you have problems with this, or if you're struggling with this, if you find you are this, then in this download, I'm going to help you with this. So then you've got the copy for that, and we make sure we've got some images as well. So within the template thing, we create social images, and we create images for the landing page. Then you want to start writing your emails that you're going to send to them, because the minute they download that, you're going to want to automate some emails. And I think the word automation scares people. It's really not that difficult. It's like, when they opt in this form, send them this thing. Wait a day, send them this thing. Wait 2 days, send them this thing. So then what we do is we write all our emails, and again, there's like templates to follow and that sort of format. And we've got our titles, our subject lines, we've got our preview text, we've got our emails. So basically we have everything ready to roll before we go to the tech. So they literally have a Google Doc of all their stuff. They have their images, they have their PDF, they have the pictures, the lot. And things like, as well, there might be a little blurb about who you are and what makes you an expert. So then what we do is, when we go to the system, the thing that we start with is you can do a couple of things, but depending on what system you're using and which order it goes in, because again, it's all different, but normally you'd build a thank you page first. And the thank you page is a really simple page that acknowledges the fact that they've opted in, and it might tell them things like, make sure you check your spam, because it might have gone in there. And if you don't get it, email us here, or if you haven't found it. If you want to link to something else on that page, you can. You could always say, go and take a look at my website, or I wrote a blog on this, or whatever it is. But normally, and again, when getting started, don't over confuse yourself. Just a plain thank you page that has your logo and a nice image or whatever on it in your font saying thank you. It's on its way, and don't forget to check your junk. So that's on the thank you page. So we'd build that first. Then what we'd probably build next is the email sequence. And again, it can depend on different systems, but you'd need to build that sequence. So basically this is an automation, and you would say, okay, I want to create an automation, and you might put the trigger in there. You might put the trigger somewhere else. Again, this is where different systems differ.
Depends on the tool. Yeah,
it does. But basically you're saying, okay, when this thing happens, I want you to, and it can be like, so active campaign, it could be a tag. So when this tag is added, start this, and you can decide the tag, and we normally have decided the tag by this point. So you would start the automation when someone gets this tag, start this thing, and it'd be like, send them an email immediately. And then you put in your copy and your text of the email. The other thing you're going to need to do is link to the thing that they've got, and things like the one key thing, and I saw this the other day with someone, is I opted in for their thing, and they had a huge email, and the link was hidden. Well, I say hidden, but it was amongst a lot of text of the thing I actually was trying to download. And then there was about another 4 or 5 links of various different other things they were trying to tell me to do, and a 20% off discount if I bought my first thing. And it's like, way too much,
Too much.
too much. Because then again, you're jumping straight into the sale. And again, that's not humane. That's not, we're coming from a point of serving. We're coming from a point of going, I know you struggle with this and I can help because that's what I do and that's what I'm brilliant at. And yes, of course, we all need to be paid. And of course, there are paid things that you can have. But at that point, that's too early. So the first email is just an email that says, here you go. There's your thing. Like, you asked for it, there it is. And I think on the copy, it normally says something like, and I'll be in touch in a couple of days to let you see how you got on. And again, one thing I find, especially with a brand new sequence of someone brand new, tell them what to expect. Okay. So in that first email, say, I'll be back in touch tomorrow, or I'll be back in touch in 2 days, so that when your email does fall into their inbox, they're not going to think, oh, she's hounding me, because I've already told you that this is what's going to happen.
One thing that I really like doing is using numbers in brackets. So 1 out of 5. And then they know, okay, this is the first email, and there's going to be 4 more. And so I use that in all the subject lines, and people really like it. I use that also in like mini series where I'm like, I'm going to be talking about this topic over 5 emails. You know that these are coming, right? So I guess, especially in an onboarding series, that would be really helpful for people.
Yes,
like,
super helpful. It's a great idea. And like you said, so, and I think as well, people are, I know people who are struggling with marketing and they really, you know, they think it's sleazy and slimy and horrible, but as long as people know what to expect from you, it's when they're caught off guard. It's when you've said to them, I'm going to email you once a week, or I'm going to email you once a month, and then you send 5 in 2 days. Like, that's not okay. That's not all right to do. So it's about being really honest and going, this is what I'm going to do. And thinking as well as serving. So I often say, when I generally talk about emails, like, you have to ask yourself, who cares? Well, with anything we do, who cares? Like, am I giving them something in that email that they're going to want to read? Am I giving them something that is going to be of value to them? Because if all I'm doing is telling them to buy my stuff, that is of no value to them. Now, if I'm telling them a story that will give them a lesson or a learning, and then at the end of that email, I say, and actually, if you want more help with this, I can, and here's how you can get that help, then that's different. So
I think that's important to mention as well, because I know a lot of my clients, and I'm sure maybe yours as well, we have heart-centered clients, and so they already know that they want to serve, right? But it's the actual selling piece that's kind of difficult. And so just this morning, a client said to me that her subscribers told her they don't want more than 1 message per month. And I said, I understand that, and that is good that you ask what they want, but you also need to look out for yourself, because you are running a business. And so you don't just want to only serve and share great content. You still also need to sell. That's why they are on your email list. So it's finding that balance, right?
It is. And like you said, it's that, for me, again, asking that question is lovely. And I asked it, funnily enough, just the other day, but I send 3 emails a week. So, and I asked them, and I said to them, I'm going to slow down in August, because obviously August is our UK summer holiday, and I have a daughter and a stepson, and, you know, hopefully might take a little bit time off at some point. But for me, I was like, so I'm probably going to send like 2 emails a week this time. And then so I said, actually, drop me an email back and let me know what you think about that. And I've had people in the past go, I'd like less. And as long as I'm consistent, as long as I told them this is what it's going to be, and I communicate with them, and I am thinking of doing less, I'm thinking of maybe just doing 2 a week on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And I will email them going, I've been having a think, and I think this is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm going to do it. And, you know, so I think it's that communication. And again, treating people like they're real humans, because they are real humans.
I think when people get scared because the tech is involved, and they feel like, okay, so now this is, you know, the techie part of the business, where it's not, you can still be yourself in these emails. And even though you're talking to many people, you're still talking
I
as
write,
if you were talking
yes,
just to one person.
I write every email as if I'm talking to one person.
Yeah.
And I personally reply to everyone that responds, and I ask them to respond. And whether that takes me 20 minutes or 3 days, I'm the one that responds. And my team know that. They leave those emails alone because that, and again, I don't have a copywriter write my emails. I write them, and I joke that they're not award winning and there's going to be typos in them. And I'm sorry, but I'm not, because it's like, that's not my zone of genius. Writing is not necessarily my zone of genius. However, the authenticity of it and the fact of, you want to hear from me, so you're going to hear from me. You're not going to hear from a copywriter who has relayed a story that I've told them. So again, treating it as an additional bit of content, another way to communicate with your audience, but also having that two-way thing and asking them and including them in the decision, I think is great. I do think, though, once a month is not enough, nowhere near enough, because like, if I said to someone, post on social media once a month, and this is the analogy I always give when I get them in the course to go, right, how often are you going to email, on what day? And initially all of them would go, probably once a month. And then I say to them, imagine just posting on Instagram 12 times a year. What do you think that would do for the business? Do you think that would mean you get good business? No, of course it wouldn't. And we need to look at emails in a similar way. So again, it's more about what you're putting in the email than the frequency of the email. So we do the sequence emails. We got digressed there. I digressed us, but we do the sequence emails. And like I said, the first one is deliver the thing. The second one might be, if they're brand new to you, it might be who you are. Or normally the second one for me is, okay, so you had this thing because you were struggling. Have you seen this? So it might be, here's a podcast I did about it. Here's an article I wrote on it. Here's a video I've done on it, but it's helping them further. And then from that point, you might introduce yourself. You might explain more about what you do. You might then, and some of my email sequences on email 4 or 5, but again, you don't have to do this from day one. It gives them a video of something that's particularly pertinent to what they've downloaded, or a sneak peek into the membership, because actually they downloaded a mindset thing and the membership has mindset calls in it. And then, because I have products at the end of it, I might go, if you're interested, actually you might want to join the club, or you might want to have a look at the club. And then my last email will say, this is only because I'm leading into products or a service or whatever. If you're not, then you don't do this. But my last email says, you're not ready? No worries. So basically as well, and the automation is very cool, but I don't teach this. I can teach it to someone who asks, but this is not what I would tell you to get started with. So for instance, in my funnel in Active Campaign, at the end of every email, I have a section in the process that says, did they sign up to the club? If they did, don't send them anything else. If they didn't, send them this. Did they sign up to the club? If they didn't, don't send them anything else. If they did, they did, don't send them anything else. They didn't, and that's when I send them, no worries, that's fine. I see.
And that's exactly the thing. You can't do it Kajabi. Like none of this is
no, it's not. Right? No, you need a system. And I think fairly confident you can do an element of that in MailChimp, not MailChimp, MailerLite. I told you I'd get confused. Yeah, there is an element of that you can do in MailerLite, but you can't do that in Kajabi, which is why, again, when I could afford it, I switched back. But again, even saying to them at the end, no worries, I've offered you this thing. I think it could be cool, but you don't want it. And because I very much believe in humane marketing, I don't do close and open on stuff unless it's a course like Build My List where I work with you along it, which means I obviously have to have an intake because we all start at the same point. But other than that, my membership is always open. So I just really nicely say at the end, no worries, I'm always here. And now you're going to start getting my regular emails, and I tell them what the deal is with the regular emails. So those things, that kind of onboarding is kind of key. So you need all those emails written, which they already are by this point, and then you put them into your system. So then you've got an automation, you've got a thank you page, you've probably got a tag. And then the next thing we go in and do is probably set up the form, again, depending on what system you're in. So we set up the form first, because on a landing page, you're going to need to put the form in it, but you can't set up the form without having stuff to link to it, because it'll say, well, what do you want to do with this form? And if you haven't got okay, once they filled in the form, go to this thank you page, or once they filled in the form, subscribe them to this automation. So that's why we're kind of working backwards and up. So then we do the form bit. And then once we've done the form bit, we then build the landing page. And then once we've done the landing page, all the social media posts are already written, already done. So it should be as easy as, so then you'll have the link for your landing page, and then it should be as easy as, here's your social media post that you've already created, shove the link in there. When they click through to it, the rest should be absolutely fine. And then obviously we do an element of testing. I test it, they test it, make sure everything looks right, reads right, and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, it's not where the process that we go through as the consumer is, we see a social media post, we go through to a landing page, we put in a form, we then go to a thank you page, we then get an email. We don't create it in the same process because that's not the process that's easy enough for us. So yeah, and I know it sounds big and
it does sound right overwhelming when you hear it like that, but it's like anything. It's definitely like Marie Forleo would say, it's figure outable. And once you have
100%.
figured it out the first time, you can just rinse and repeat the system and the process, and you will come up with different opt-ins and freebies.
Yeah, and I had, and again, I promise you, I never came on here to go buy my thing. But I had an amazing testimonial the other day. Well, I say testimonial, she just told me, but it was still amazing. One of my members bought Build My List because, like I said, it's not included in the membership because it's a very specific, and it's follow me along. So like I said, we'll literally go, has everybody done this now? Let me see it. How does it look? Yeah, great. Right, on to the next thing. Because I know people need that accountability. But she had done the course the very first time I ran it, and she actually hadn't been as present in the course as she wanted to because she was doing a tax return or something at the time, and the timing just wasn't right for her. And she actually got one of her team to go through and do the work. So they actually went in and did the stuff, and they did it. And she obviously hadn't done it. And so then it comes a year later and she decides she needs a new lead magnet. And because the other one had been performing well, but obviously it's nice to have a few. And again, I explain about, you know, why you would want different ones for different things. And so she decides she wants a new one. And she went back to the course and went through the lessons and came on one of my calls and was like, I've done it. I've just done it. And like, I literally just went back and did exactly what you said. And I've done another one. And she was like, that's amazing. And then she's doing another one. And it's like, that's the point. Like, by going through it with you like that, and even when I'm talking about different systems, the way I try and explain it, and obviously, you know, you have different systems to choose from, but the way I try and explain it is, if you understand what you're trying to do or what you need to do, even if you then go to a different system, you know, okay, I need a page or a landing page, which might be called a website on some things, or it might be called a site, or it might be called a page, or it might be called a landing page. And I need some kind of form or opt-in or pop-up. So again, where's that going to be? And I need another page for a thank you page, and I need some kind of automation, and I need something to trigger it. So even if you're moving and changing, like you said, the idea for me is I teach you the understanding of it, and then you can rinse and repeat it. Because I don't know about you, Sarah, one of the things I found in the online space, and talking of humane marketing and doing the right thing for our customers, is, and one thing that I've been complimented on, which is lovely, is that I don't set my members up or my students up to always need me. My aim is to give them the tools and the strategies,
it's the
and
empowerment
exactly to do it themselves again, rather than, okay, I'm going to give you so much, and then, you know, if you want the rest, you're going to have to come and do this and do this and do this. It's like, no, I am so over the moon. And she just so happens to also be a member as well. But even, and funnily enough, when I was doing the challenge, I re-interviewed some of the past students. And again, they said exactly the same. They're like, I did another one and I did another one. And the other thing that's really lovely actually is I have some marketers come to me and say, can I use it for clients? And I'm like, if you can come and learn the skill and learn the process and then offer that as a service. And then you can now be, I can create your opt-in, I can set up your email, and absolutely fine. You can use my tools and my strategies and my stuff. That is fine, as long as that's giving you another skill and you're obviously not selling the course out. As long as you're using the things, that's fine. But I love that. I love that we empower people to do those things so they don't have to come back to me and go, I'm gonna have to join again because I can't remember how to do it.
Yeah, I just had my first group in the Humane Marketing Circle go through my book, the Marketing Like We're Human, and they organized everything themselves. So basically it's member organized, and they got together, you know, during 3 sessions, worked through my workbooks that are available for free. And so I'm like, this is exactly what we need. You know, we don't need more gurus. We need people to get empowered and then do it themselves. Just get the tools and then do it themselves. And
you are so right.
and I think, yeah, this conversation here has been so helpful, because people are like, okay, I'm getting the big picture and I'm really getting the details, and maybe they can just, you know, do it themselves now. That would be
and
great,
for some it's
right?
more than enough.
Yeah.
On the challenge, I had a number of people, in fact a huge percentage of people, that we talked about, you know, this is how you come up with an idea, these are the sort of things that to consider, and then they'd come to like the coaching call I did alongside it, and then the next day they're like, I've created it. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Awesome.
And then, and I had actually, and I'd never had this before, but I had 2 people actually within the 5 days create the thing, and then they got a bit stuck with the tech, because obviously I can only go into so much on a challenge about that. But then they posted in the group and I was like, have you changed that to that, do this to this? And they were like, I can't honestly believe you're helping me do this. Like, yeah, but you've come into the challenge trying to achieve something and you're working really hard to achieve it. Why wouldn't I help you to achieve it? Yes, I know I have a course that teaches all this, but you're so far ahead already. And I would have literally left you at the last hurdle. And basically
they only needed that missing piece. And
and if I hadn't have thought about them in the way I do and treat my audience the way I do, I'd have been like, well, that's fine, because that's in the course. So if you want to buy the course, it'll explain how to do that. And it's like, no, this woman, and the woman I was talking about, she has a young child. It was like an 18-month-old. And it was like, I know how difficult it was for you to turn up and go through the challenge because of how busy you are and managing the child and all this. And the fact that you've done all this, and it was really early in the morning, and I normally get up and I have a morning routine and I don't look at my phone straight away. But for whatever reason, I sat in bed and I was looking at my phone, and that message came up. So she'd obviously got up before her child, or her child had woken her up or whatever and gone back to sleep. So she's messaging me, and it was like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, do this. And then she came back, I'm stuck on this. Try that. Okay, that works. Okay, you need to change this. And at the end of it, she was like, I can't believe like that you've just done that. And like I said, why wouldn't I? You know, I'm setting people up to succeed, not to need me and buy my stuff if they don't need to.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom and tackling the tech, because I think, really people are going to take a lot from that. If you would add one last tip in terms of, you know, maybe also the content, how to make it humane, you know, that idea of how do I not, because maybe they're also signed up to all these other emails, and quite frankly, a lot of them are still very salesy. And so how do I, because I talk a lot of marketing like we're human, so how do I bring the human into these emails? What would you say?
You write them. It's your voice, it's you people want to hear from. So I think and I know, you know, people want to create nice copy that is inspiring and this, that, and the other. But I was going to say, I suppose when you're selling, you could still use copyright, but no, I don't ever use a copywriter. So I'm very honest about, I set them up correctly in the fact of I tell them what's coming. So I don't surprise them with suddenly all these emails. Even when I'm in a sales period or I'm trying to promote something, I might only still send 1 or 2 extra emails. I don't go overboard and suddenly send 50 in, you know, whatever. The other key thing is to consistently email them. And whether that consistency looks like every other week or every week or 3 times a week, consistently email them. There's one person in my world who's very big, and I do not ever hear from them unless they're selling. And literally it's like not a single email, and then suddenly they'll drop into my inbox and I think, what are you selling? And it's coming into open door start, you know, it's like open carts coming soon, challenges coming soon, because I know you're about to sell something, because you'll suddenly start emailing me. Well, that basically just tells me you're using your email list to sell. Now, we know it's a very effective way to sell, but I don't want to just be sold to. So the consistency is more about proving to your community that you care about them. So like I said, be consistent, whether you've got something to sell or not. People think they've never got something to say. You've always got something to say. Have a conversation. Some of the best emails I've had replies to, and I mean replies, not sales, because the best emails I've had are replies, are about like stories that I've told or something that's happened or some vulnerability. You know, I was very vulnerable a few years back when my mum passed away, and I hadn't emailed them for 2 weeks. And I used to email once a week then. I'd email them on a Wednesday, and I hadn't emailed them for 2 weeks. And I emailed them going, you might be wondering where I've been, and I'm really sorry, because when I commit to something, I really want to do it. And I explained that unfortunately my mum had passed away fairly suddenly, and, you know, I just needed to take a couple of weeks just to, like, you know, but I'm back. I'm still going to take it easy, but I will commit back to my 1 email a week. And the flood of emails back I had was huge. That wasn't selling. That wasn't adding value. That was just being me and being human.
Right.
And I guess telling a story that other people are very likely to have been through or will go through, and telling them about how I was dealing as a business owner, you know, so I guess I was adding value in a way, but it was never like, how am I going to add value in this email? So I think the consistency, the thinking of them, the giving them value, thinking of what are they going to get from it. And even if they just walk away and think, I love your emails, they're ace, like, that's fine. Not always thinking of how you're going to sell to them in an email, but adding that value. I think that's the key bit. And asking for replies. I always ask for replies. If you can personalize it, and again, Active Campaign, you can do some very cool things, which is good, but not on the early ones. So I don't talk about this with people, but, you know, if you can personalize it, that's cool, but that's still an automation. That's still a system. So, you know, if someone replies, I personally reply back. Like, even if they're like, oh, this is great, thanks. And I just put, great, cheers. You know, even if it's like 3 words back, I make sure I respond, because they've gone the effort to do that to you. So see it as another form of way of communicating with them. It's not one way. It's not you shouting at them. It's a conversation, and you want people to have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
Try not to sound clickbaity or spammy, or, you know, and be human. It's funny. I have just made a change in my membership, and I was thinking about how I'm going to email it. I'm going to be really honest, as I am, and tell them that something didn't work, and I've stopped it, and this is why it didn't work, and this is why I've stopped it. And I was thinking about what would I actually write in the subject line. I don't know why I was giving this so much thought, but anyway, and I thought to myself, what if I wrote, I'm closing the club? And then, because that's not a lie, because I'm closing a part of the club, but I'm not closing my club. And then I thought, oh, that is so spammy. But then, me being me, I thought I would literally write, well, that got your attention, didn't it? Like, because again, I'm being human. So like, you know, and I would probably say that to someone. I'd probably be like, oh, this is happening. And they'd be like, what? I'm like, yeah, not really. It's like this, but I'm not lying. But I would have that kind of funny conversation in the actual email. So again, think about that. Think about
so having that, what I hear you say is like, have the marketing brain on. Obviously, you're not going to go into a very boring subject line, right?
No.
People, yes, they do open or not your email,
yes.
depending on the subject line, but then still be transparent and honest when you do, when you do write about something that is happening or not. The other thing I want to bring it up, because I don't know if you seen it on your LinkedIn post you just posted about the door open or door closed, or cart open or not. I just want to give you kind of another perspective, because I've been thinking about this whole thing with open cart, closed cart as well. And you're right, it is kind of like, okay, let's use this urgency and, you know, spam people, and you can only buy now. And so I've given this a lot of thought in the humane marketing perspective. And then I thought, you know what? It's a given fact. Yes, people sometimes do need some kind of encouragement to, you know, buy. We know that that's a proven fact. What does that mean for me? How do I want to communicate about these open slots throughout the year? And then I was also thinking about my existing members. I'm like, actually, I do like the fact that for 3 months, I have the full focus only on my existing members, right? There's not new people always joining. It's like, okay, we have a window that is open. And so really, I think it's not so much about the techniques, and that's what I talk about in humane marketing. It's about the motivation.
It's behind like, what you're doing.
It's like, okay, this is how that's what I talk about, the early bird price offer as well. The intention is not, oh, let me push you to buy now. It's not like I would love to give you this offer at a reduced price, because it helps you. It also helps me, frankly, because then I know
Yes.
I already have members or people,
And I think
participants, right?
that's the other thing. It's about speaking the truth behind this stuff.
Yeah.
And that is something I have done a lot more recently, as in past 6-12 months. And even to the point where, you know, I've got an email going out. I batch my emails. That's the only way I can send 3 a week, obviously, because I send a lot. But I batch my emails for next week. And next week I'm talking about one of my amazing friends who has a course, and it's a really good course, and I've done it, and it's about bringing on a team member, and I have a team, and she's just a genius in it. She's so good. But one of the things I say, so in the first email, I'm like, if you're looking for a team, this is good, whatever. But then I say to them, as you know, I don't talk about affiliates often. I don't do affiliates often. So my next email is all about my thoughts on affiliate marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, in principle, it's great. And this is kind of what you're saying. The principle of it is not flawed. It's how people have then used that principle.
Exactly.
So I was saying to them, you know, having someone recommend something that they've done is a really good marketing tool. And it's excellent, because no one, you know, it's like with all of us, you know, I love gin. So someone will go, oh, have you tried so-and-so? It's amazing. Well, thank you very much. You know, it's not affiliate marketing, they're not getting paid for it, but that is a recommendation, and that's what affiliate marketing can be. But the problem comes where, and again, I know a few people who do this, where basically they flog their audience like they are just a cash cow. So they are an affiliate for anything and everything. And also the way in which they sell the affiliate thing is that you need this, you have to have it, this is crucial, this is how, if you look at me and you think I'm a success, you need to do the same, because you won't be a success without it. It's all the messaging around it and the frequency in which they do it. So it's a really weirdly contrasting email, because in one breath I'm going, okay, this is brilliant about affiliate marketing. This is not. I'm not happy about that. I am very precious about my audience, the same way as I'm very precious about my podcast and about what I deliver. So I'm super precious about emailing you, and I'm not willing to like bombard you with sales emails, because I don't think that's right. However, my lovely friend Jen is doing this course, and it is amazing. Oh, and again, one of the other things I talk about is, I said, do you know how much people get paid for affiliate stuff? Like, it's not small money. Some of these people are getting like $800 to $1,000 per student, you know, so them coming across going, you've got to buy it because of XYZ. There's a real strong motivation as to why they're saying that. Of course.
And then they started creating their own offer, you know, if you buy it, then I'll add this on top.
This. Yeah.
We need to do a session just on affiliate
we
marketing.
Should, honestly. I could talk about this stuff so much. But again, so in my email, I've written a very honest, educational, because I've told them about affiliate marketing and why it's good, how not to do it, and FYI, just as a little bit of a heads up, next time someone is hounding you to buy something, just work out
how much they're
what they might be getting for that. And then I say, but this course is excellent, and Jen is excellent, and she's doing a free 3-day workshop, and by all means go along to it and take what she has to say, and it's great, and there is no pressure for you to buy. And that will be email number 2 I've sent about her course. And then when her cart opens, I'll send another email. But again, it'll be like, this is cool. If you are in this situation and you need help, this will help. But like, I'm not going to tell you that it changed my world and I can't live without it. It was an excellent course, but of course, you know, we can all live without stuff, can't we?
Yeah. It's just all about, I think, humane marketing, my role, I see also shining a light on all of these things. And that's why I have conversations like this, because people don't know, you know, they don't know that there are people who call themselves affiliate marketers, and they're making, in the thousands.
So much money.
So much money.
And again, it's like, you know, there are some people that I've worked with in the past, and again, it's funny how, I don't know about you, when you went through the process of coming into the more humane marketing, that suddenly you realize that some of the people you hung around with, or some of the people that you bought from, or some of the people that you respected and learnt from, actually are the people now you're trying to avoid. And there's some people in particular that literally will go mad on email marketing when they've got something to sell, but they're selling everyone's course and everyone's thing because they've bought it and now they're an affiliate for everything, and they're making a lot of money off the back of their audience, and their audience isn't necessarily, and I know it's not up for us to decide, but you know, some of this stuff is not appropriate to their audience. Some of this stuff is
they'll
way
never
out of the
get
budget
success because
No,
they're
because that's not what they're meant to be doing. And if they
No.
just focused on the thing they were doing,
Mm.
they would get their success. But of course, their guru, their expert has told them that they have to have this thing, so they're buying it, and it's a waste. And whereas if you care about your audience, you would offer it. That's fine, not to offer it, but then you'd be realistic. And I am always about, should I buy this? Like even my own course, you know, even the Build My List course, I had someone come to me and said, should I buy it? And I went, no, because you've
it
done
depends
loads.
if they're ready or if they're already past
And
that level.
she kind of was. And I said, you know what will work better for you actually is, you know, and again, I'm not using the sales tactics, but my club, you need the next level. And actually you could come and ask me questions on a coaching call. That could be good.
Mm-hmm.
But again, no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think sometimes, I don't know about you, Sarah, like sometimes I do think I'm cutting off my nose to spite my face in some ways and thinking, you know, there is a reason all this stuff works. But I just hope and pray that honesty and integrity will, you know, prevail, and I'll come out winning at the end of it.
If anything, we'll have good karma and they won't.
We will. We will. You are right. We are right.
We'll walk away with. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Amazing. Please do share, Teresa, where people can find out more about you, and of course the course, or that maybe you have another challenge as well. So
so you can come to teresaheathwareing.com and everything will be on there. If you want to check out Build My List, that's what the course is called. It's over at teresaheathwareing.com/build my list. Or come and DM me on Instagram. I'm there most often. I'm on every platform, but I'm there most often. And I love a conversation. So please come and say hi.
Wonderful. And I have one last question, and that is, what are you grateful for today, this week?
Oh my word. So much. So much. I practice gratitude all the time. I'm grateful for the fact that I have my own business, that I am my own boss, and that after this interview, I'm going to go and sit outside in the sun for half an hour because I can, because the sun's shining and it's beautiful and I love it. And I'm going to wander around my garden where all my vegetables are growing, which again, I am crazy grateful for, and enjoy my garden for half an hour before my house gets busier and everyone comes home. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Wonderful. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I've loved it.
Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.